Hey guys, thank you for joining us one more time for another discussion vlog here with us at TNHU. I do apologize for being out of commission for a couple weeks. I've been a little bit under the weather. I do apologize also in advance for the sniffling and the weird nasally voice that I come to you with tonight. But with that aside, I wanted to go ahead and catch you guys up with my thoughts and experiences with a couple games, and this time I want to start off with Cuphead. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So Cuphead's been in development for about 3 years, probably even more, but I think we got the announcement 3 years ago. And it's a side-scroller game, and it's a very retro-styled side-scroller game. And what really drew me to Cuphead was their art style, the art direction that they chose. It's very 1930s, very retro cartoon, hand-drawn and everything. Pretty awesome. And that's really what drew me towards Cuphead. Not just because it was a platformer, a side-scroller, and I love those kind of games. But it was really the whole retro art style that they decided to go through with. And MDHR, you guys, kudos to you guys for letting out a masterpiece like this with that kind of theme going on. It's not very common that we get something like that. Well, with that being said, it's a very tight playing platformer, and it's quite hard actually. So if you guys are into torturing yourself and repeating boss battles and getting killed so many numerous times, Cuphead's the place to be. So yeah, in reality, I love the game very much. I always go back to it. I always try my luck with, not my luck, it's skill. It's really skill. Sometimes it's a little bit luck, but it's mostly skill. But yeah, I always head back and play some Cuphead a little bit every day, and that's how my experience of Cuphead's been like recently. I can't seem to sit down for too long to really play it. So it's something that I like to come back to every once in a while, just for short bursts. Usually I come home for lunch and sit down a little bit and play some Cuphead, maybe a stage or two, an attempt or two, not a stage, because most of the time it's rare for me to accomplish to finish and complete a stage or a boss battle during my lunch break. But anyway, yeah, sometimes I stop by and I play a little bit, and then after work I play a little bit again. But if you guys have gathered, the point of the game is pretty much focusing on learning the boss, the stage, and really trying to best it. It's really a game of skill. I've been playing a lot on the Xbox, and there's only 14% of the people who've bought the game that have beaten the second island. There's only 3 islands, and I believe the final area. I'm barely through the second island, and I'm still loving the game. Don't get me wrong, not just because of the art style and everything, but not even the torture and the suffering that it's causing me. It's the fun version of it. But the fact that the game is actually pretty fun. It's the gist of the game, if you guys are here to listen in on what Cuphead is all about, and you guys aren't familiar with the game at all, let me give you guys a little idea of what this game is. It's obviously an action platformer, but it's in the style of short stages. Pretty much most of the gameplay is within a boss battle, one way or another. Okay, there's technically 4 in total, four kinds of gameplay in total, and it's technically divided into 2, and the first half is just your basic, you're using Cuphead, the character, you're shooting with the shots that you're equipped, and usually it's your typical pea shooter or other kind of things like a shotgun or a boomerang type or a charged weapon, stuff like that. Typical side-scrolling action platformer type thing. and you're just going through different phases of a boss. So most bosses have at least 2 to 3, sometimes there's 4 different forms, and each of those forms have different attack patterns, usually 1 or 2 different attack patterns. And then what happens is they throw out one or the other kind of pattern in every trial that, or every time you retry the boss, every time you fight the boss. Okay, yeah, that's how I'm trying to put it. But anyway, there's different sections to a boss battle, and most of the time they go with one pattern per phase. And what'll happen is it throws people off, and a lot of people think it's unfair. They throw alternate patterns within those phases, so that's where the luck factor really comes in. So there are some patterns that you really hate, and there's some patterns that you're really good at. And so usually what I tend to do is I tend to wait for the ones that I'm really good at. If I mess up, I'm just gonna retry, whatever. You only have 3 lives to deplete. So you get hit 3 times, you're done. You have to restart the whole stage again. Luckily, the stages are usually about a minute to 3 minutes tops. Probably more. You can probably go more. I think you can, because I haven't really hit a 2-minute mark or a 3-minute mark in any of the stages that I've gone through. But yeah, for the most part, you have a boss battle with different phases. Each phase has a pattern, and those patterns are very strict per se. So a lot of the times you tend to end up really getting squeezed in one corner and getting hit one way or another. So that's where the focus and the learning and adapting takes place. So the other type of gameplay is pretty much like a bullet hell type thing, where you Mughead rides his plane, flies around, and you shoot. And instead of having your typical equipment that you're used to, the shots that you've equipped, the charms that you have, the charms pretty much change certain things. Like you can equip an extra heart in exchange for a little bit of attack power. My favorite is the smoke grenade. Pretty much whenever you dash or you evade, you disappear and then reappear, instead of actually physically dashing from point A to point B. So it's pretty cool, because that way you can avoid a lot more damage than normal. And then the last piece of equipment that you can actually fiddle around with is a super. So that's something that you can unlock for every part of the island that you go through. And that's the reason why we kind of know that there's only 3 islands, because there's only 3 supers, and they tell you from the beginning that there's 3 mausoleums, or at least 1 mausoleum per island, and there's 3 slots. So kind of put 2 and 2 together. But anyway, bullet hell. So that's where we were. You go ahead and Mughead turns into this airplane. I'm not sure if he's riding it or he becomes it, because he has magic powers now or something. But Cuphead and Mughead. But anyway, what happens is your whole arsenal changes. Instead of having your typical shots in your equipment, you're shooting the gun of the plane, and you become a missile when you use your super. So those are the things that you want to consider. It's a totally different style of gameplay. Sometimes it's only a boss. Sometimes the boss ranges the same way, with like 3, 4, 5 different phases with multiple patterns per phase. And it's the same concept. Like, they throw you off by giving you a whole new style of gameplay, but it's the same kind of idea. Boss battle, prolonged stages, obstacle courses, bullet hell. So there's that. And the other version is run and gun. Run and gun is pretty much your regular stage. Literally get from point A to point B while avoiding obstacles, So it's just as tedious, it's just as hard as boss battles, because you really have to learn the course. Once in a while, when you get to the end, there will be like a mini boss, so there's that to look out for too. So those are the kind of things that you kind of want to expect. So there's the run and gun, there's the boss battle, and they're bullet hell versions of those. So that's the reason why there's 4 different kinds of gameplay. So That's usually what happens. The bosses are really quirky. There's a lot of personality and characteristics backing them, and it's a pretty fun looking game. So behind all that fun though, at certain points you can easily get frustrated, as I have been. But the thing is, once you usually put down the controller, and you have to tell yourself, you know what, as much as I want to finish this, it's fun, or it's just my perfectionist side just wanting to really finish the stage already. um, no, you got to know how to put it down, reflect on what's going on, let your mind bake with the information that it got, and go back to it. Like, once you're done taking a break, take a break, quick break, come back to it, and it sinks in, and you have more. Well, at least I did. I had more chance of doing better after taking a quick break, after doing a boss over and over again. You react faster. So it's one of those things where it's mentally tiresome, because you actually have to really focus and know what you're doing, because it's so strict, it's so tight. Once in a while, there's a lucky corner where you can kind of sit in per phase of a boss or a stage, and you can just sit there and be cool. It's pretty awesome. But for the most part, that's what Cuphead is. It's really simple. There's no overly detailed stats to worry about. There's no overwhelming instructions to really think of, that make you panic later on, like, oh my god, I forgot what he said. What did the instructions say again? You don't have to worry about those kind of things. So the game's totally opposite. It's really, really simple. It's really simple, it's really vague, and I think it really emphasizes the fact that it's themed as a retro game. Like, everything about it is retro. Like, back in the day when we had older games, they didn't really tell you what to do. It's just, this game is Pong. Just move up and down, or left and right, or whatever orientation the paddles are, and you just move up and down so that way the ball can bounce through. Like Pac-Man. It's like, dude, move around. If the ghosts are blinking, eat them. If they're not, run away. Pretty straightforward. Same idea with Cuphead. It's very retro in that sense, that it's very simple, very vague, and it's very straightforward. This is the only thing the game does. Run around and shoot and avoid things. Don't die. That's actually the three main purposes of that game. Run around, beat the boss by shooting things, and not dying. Those are the things that you have to worry about with Cuphead. Ultimately, story-wise, if you guys have started it or looked into it, pretty much the intro of the game is Cuphead and his buddy Mughead end up finding a casino. They roam around and they're like, oh hey, let's go farther than usual, and they find a casino and they play some craps. They do really well, and guess what? The owner, the devil himself, comes out and says, you know what, all or nothing. You win against me with this one last roll, you have everything in this casino, or if you lose, I take your souls. Pretty simple deal. So they lose, obviously. So they beg for their lives, and Devil says, you know what? Let's change this up a little bit. Why don't you guys become our debt collectors? That kind of deal. So what happens is Mughead and Cuphead go out to the world and collect the souls that are owed to the devil. And partway through, Grandpa Teapot comes up and tells you guys, Cuphead and Mughead, that, you know what, here's a brilliant idea. Why don't you, while you guys are collecting these souls, and you guys are powering up yourselves, dude, you guys would be much more powerful than the people who are running this thing in the long run. So there you go. Pretty much they give you a purpose, and then a way to turn the bad things back to good. So that's the synopsis of the game, pretty much, and you kind of know the deal. The whole game is like boss, take soul, and then in the end, let's go face the big baddie. So pretty straight up. I really like how it plays. It's very tight. It's very precise. Whatever you tell Cuphead or Mughead to do, they do it a little too well, actually, because now what's left is human error. It makes you feel like, oh crap, when I mess up, that's me. That's on me, because the controls are really well. Well, then there's the occasional hiccup where I've encountered twice actually in total where I defeated the boss, but it kind of lagged. I had to really wait. I didn't want to turn off the console. I had to be patient because this boss was hard for me at that time, and it just hung. I think it was supposed to be a knockout, but it hung. So I was like, no way. So I was just like, dude, no, I'm gonna wait here and wait till this thing goes on. And you know what, it did. So, you know, it took about maybe 2-3 minutes before it kind of rolled up again, but it was the knockout animation that kind of hung the whole thing. But that was once, and there've been a lot more gameplay between that time to now, so I'm not worried about it. So yeah, I mean, it's human error. When you fail and you mess up, and you know it's you, because it's just like, dude, I was rushing, you know, I wasn't paying attention, I wasn't focusing, and I was getting too cocky, stuff like that. So it's really your fault whenever you play and you mess up. What else is pretty cool about Cuphead? Like I mentioned a while ago, a little bit about the equipment already, and that idea is pretty cool. That way you can have a little bit of variety of how you shoot around. So that's a pretty cool part of it, where you can kind of mess around with customizable parts for Cuphead and Mughead. Let's see. Well, I'm speaking about Cuphead and Mughead now, so let me touch on the whole co-op part. Co-op makes things a little bit easier because there's chances to revive. So on top of the typical running and gunning and dashing and evading, there's this thing where it's pretty much a double jump, but what it is it's a parry. So what happens was you jump and you press the jump button again, you spin around and slap, you know, in a slap fashion. You spin around with your hand whirling around, and if you hit anything pink, it has to be pink. Or what's it called? You kind of jump up. You slap it, you jump up, and it increases your super, you know, bar recharge rate. Excuse me. So the cool part is when you're playing co-op and Mughead or Cuphead dies, they become a spirit, and so either one of you has the chance to run up there and parry and slap that heart up. So that way you slap that heart, and Mughead or Cuphead, whoever died, comes back. He gets resuscitated and comes back, and you get another chance to play. And that's a cool part. Makes things a little bit easier because there's double the fire damage, double the firepower, I'm sorry. But the only thing is, Cuphead on its own, by yourself, solo, gets a little cluttered as it is. So adding another player and adding Mughead to the loop makes the clutter a little bit more cluttered. So if you guys can imagine that things are roaming around the whole screen, and then you have to worry about another character roaming around on its own, you know, unpredictably, because of the fact that it doesn't follow a pattern because it's a player. If you can overlook that, then co-op is definitely a fun addition and an essential addition to the game. Unfortunately, there's no multiplayer online or co-op online, and which is a disappointment. Like I said, the game is entirely retro. I still think that the loading screens are retro too. It's part of the theme. I mean, the game really doesn't need it because it's 2D, and you know, and it's a very lightweight looking game. And you'd think that the loading screens, the long loading screens that it has on the Xbox, and you know, the presence of any loading screen on the PC, kind of seems very questionable, in my opinion. I mean, but it's a little bit of trivia. You know, you never know if it's really part of the game or if it's just part of their theme, because retro games had loading times. You know what I mean? So I think that's what MDHR was trying to come across here. They really wanted to show off that retro feel, and I feel like they succeeded. The art style, the gameplay, the presentation, they're all retro. Love it. It's simple, it's straightforward, and it's quite fun because it doesn't make you feel like the game is cheating you. It's a hard game, just like retro games. Here we go again with the whole theme of retro. But at the same time, it makes you feel like you're the one who makes mistakes when you're playing the game. And that's what gets frustrating, because you feel like the game is cheating you, or you just feel frustrated because of the fact that you keep messing up. And it's a normal process of Cuphead. Like I said, only 14 point something as of today people got the achievement for getting through the second island. So there's that. So The only thing that I really didn't like was the default controls, because it makes you crunch your hand if you're using a controller. Okay, if you're using a keyboard and mouse, that's up to you guys. But I play the game on either way, on either console, or either platform, Steam or Xbox One. I play with a controller, and the default controller setting is kind of scrunchy. All your fingers are, kind of cramped into the face buttons. So if you guys noticed on the video that I'm playing behind my voice right now, the first thing I did when I started the game was actually mess around with the settings. And I have a specific layout for action platformers. Usually if there's a dash, I like to put it on the right trigger or the right bumper. In this case, I put the super on the left trigger and the dash on the right trigger, holding your position so that way you can aim around the screen. I put it on the left bumper. And then switching weapons, I do the right bumper, so that way it does, it's on occasion that you do either one. And then the jump and the gunning, or jump and the shooting, typical A and X, X and square for the PlayStation, B and Y on the Nintendo platform, stuff like that. I'm used to that kind of setup where my thumb kind of just lays down on the A and then the X on the Xbox, just to get an easy feel of jumping around. That's pretty much it. And there's really not much else to say. I really had a hard time thinking of what to do to make this a substantial episode. And I'm surprised that I actually hit 20 minutes chatting with you guys about my experience with Cuphead. But, in reality, Cuphead's a very simple and straightforward game. And there's not much to really talk about in regards to Cuphead. It's a very simple, very retro game. And it's tons of fun, and at times it could get frustrating, but I always come back to it after cooling off a bit. Take a break a little bit, you'll want to come back, you miss it. If you're like me and you like your share of side scrollers, action platformers, or those kind of things, just try it out. And it really doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's fairly cheap, and I really love it. So again, if you guys are into your share of side scrollers and action platformers, I think this is your cup of tea, pun intended. So anyway, we are partway through October, which means that I'm kind of behind with a few things from September. So I will be posting at the same time I post this my Monster Hunter Stories discussion. So I want to tell you guys about my experience with Monster Hunter Stories. And next up from there, I think the same weekend, the same time I post this, I'm going to go ahead and do a looking ahead for November. November is going to be another big month. October is a really big month. As you guys know, Shadow of War just came out this week. Mike's already playing on as we speak, and we plan to do a quick discussion. Probably not that quick. We'll do a discussion vlog on that one, since I didn't get the chance to really play Shadow of Mordor or Shadow of War. I have them both, but I haven't gotten to sit down and sink my teeth into it. Not sure if it's my cup of tea, again with a pun, but I want to get Mike over here so that way we can talk about it. He can tell us some of his experiences for both games, primarily the first one and what he thinks of the second one. And I'll be going ahead and doing Assassin's Creed Origins later this month, and then we'll go ahead and pick and choose what we want for the looking ahead for November. So as always, let's go ahead and close up. So all right, so stay tuned for all of those: Assassin's Creed Origins, Shadow of War, and Wolfenstein 2, A New Colossus. I'll definitely be talking about those games this month, and the looking ahead follows. I think I'll do that this week as well. So as always, stay tuned to those things, and as always, again, chime in where it counts. So, Facebook page, here the blog, just give us a read, give us a like. And now that we're here on YouTube, subscribe and like if you guys like our content. Comment anywhere that matters, so that way we know what you guys like. And yeah, so stay tuned for the next couple vlogs that we're going to go ahead and enter in. So you guys have a great evening, and we're going to go head out. Night, guys.